October 2024, I got promoted, but it was one of the most disappointing times in my career. I was grieving the thought that I could have gotten the role earlier if I had made different decisions in my career. And also, I was just sad because I had gotten a 10% increase. My gross income didn't even hit the minimum that I had in mind. I had even planned for a bonus that never came, and I couldn't understand how I could get promoted but not qualify for a bonus. I even had to ask HR about it.
What a moment in history. I'll never forget that. I won't forget that one.
Every chance I got, I was complaining about it. I was becoming a professional venter, and that's how you know it's time to go.
When you start fantasizing about the building burning down, you know it's time to go.
So I dusted off my CV and started applying for jobs in November of 2024.
Woo, that'll do it. You don't have to worry about me. You do not have to worry about me.
And in December of 2024, I got my first interview with Armscor. And then in January, I got an interview with KPMG, and I was successful for both. I also ended up getting an interview with FNB, but decided not to go because by then Armscor had given me an offer. I've done about 12 interviews in my whole career, and I have been successful at 9. So that is a 75% success rate. And in my current role, I also get to interview people, and last year I interviewed 9 people. I personally don't like interviews. They give me anxiety, and as an introvert, I detest anything that requires me to be the center of attention. But here are 4 principles that I've learned about interviews that I want to share with you today. Number 1 is that confidence is key. People generally see you how you see yourself. So if you doubt yourself, then other people are also going to doubt you. You need to believe that I'm the best person for this job and act like it, because confidence is attractive. The worst interview I ever had was an interview that I did with MultiChoice several years ago. I was so nervous I could barely hide it. And I came to realize during that interview that I was grossly underprepared, and every question felt hard, which made the panic even worse. I took that as a learning curve and learned what actually works for me. And one of those things is acting. These people don't know who you are, they don't know your failures, they don't know your struggles, they don't know that you're an introvert, so you can literally be whoever you want to be in that room. The other thing that I find also helps me with confidence is preparation. For me, my nervousness is very closely linked to how much I know. I've noticed that when I go to meetings where I know what I'm talking about, I am not as nervous. But when I don't know what I'm presenting on that well, the nerves skyrocket. So prepare. Look up questions about the role online and rehearse and rehearse and rehearse. Study the job spec and familiarize yourself with the concepts that are mentioned in that job spec. A lot of interviews these days are using the STAR method, so you need to prepare your stories or your scenarios beforehand using that method. The other thing that boosts confidence is getting as much information as possible. And this specifically applies to introverted people like myself, because we tend to feel anxious when there are too many unknowns. You can get information when HR calls you by asking questions about the interview. Ask them how many people are going to be in the interview. Ask them who will be in the interview. And by knowing who will be in the interview, you're able to determine then if the interview is going to be technical or not. You can even look up these people on LinkedIn and see what they look like and also learn about them. One of the things that threw me off in my MultiChoice interview was the fact that the panel was made up of about 4 or 5 people. And that was so intimidating. But had I known that beforehand, I would have been less affected by it. Lastly, I breathe and I pause. Deep breaths signal to your body that you are safe. So it makes you more calm. And also learning to pause and being okay with silence is so much better than rambling. I think that a lot of nervousness comes also from how we think about the interview process. So try to think of it as a conversation instead of an interrogation. And in a conversation, you can ask somebody clarifying questions. You can ask, am I on the right track? Is this what you meant? Instead of going on and on. And in a conversation, it's okay when you don't know the answer. It's okay when you pause. It's okay when you think. It's okay to say, I actually don't know that. I've actually never been in such a situation, but I will definitely look that up after this interview. So try to identify the things that make you nervous before the interview so that you can actually deal with them before you have to go into an interview room. The second principle is connect with the panelists. Now, this is important because, unfortunately, people don't hire people they don't like. You may have all the necessary credentials, but if no one in the room likes you, you're not getting the job. And the person that really needs to like you is the person that you will be reporting directly to. So you need to identify that person in the room. When we did interviews last year, there was a guy that my boss really liked, but I didn't like him. And I was having a hard time picturing working with him. So we didn't take him because he would have been reporting to me. And I was not convinced that he would be a perfect fit for the team. You have a higher chance of being liked if you connect with the panelist on something. Some of my best interviews have been interviews where I connected with the interviewer on something that we had in common. In my Deloitte interview, the director was someone who came from Limpopo, so that is something that we bonded over. And in my EY interview, our connection point was traveling. And surprisingly, she did most of the talking in that interview. And don't forget to smile. Smiling shows warmth and it breeds trust. If somebody attempts to make a joke and you're as cold as ice, you're not making a good impression. The third principle is communicate value and remember that you are the prize. Interviews are about selling yourself. You are both the salesperson and the product. Sell yourself, but don't be desperate. Nothing repels people like desperation, and this is true in relationships and interviews. One of the interviews that I failed dismally is one where I spent the majority of the time talking about how hard things were at the company where I was working and how I just wanted to leave. I wanted to rest. I was exhausted. And that recruiter never spoke to me again because nobody cares. Nobody cares about your sad story because they're not hiring to help people. They are hiring to solve a problem. So you need to talk about yourself like you are the solution. The bottom line is, how will your skills, how will your capabilities, how will your previous experience benefit the company? Every question you get asked comes down to, what do you bring to the table? So you need to answer those questions with that in mind. And remember, you are the prize. The job would not have been posted if they didn't have a need. So you're not there to ask for a favor. You are the favor. This is a mutually beneficial relationship. Then the fourth and last principle is ask questions. At the end of the interview, you will often be asked if you have any questions. It is important that you have questions. Now, this is not something you have to think of on the spot. You need to prepare 2 or 3 questions before you even get to the interview. What will help you is doing some research on the company and also their competitors and problems that they are having, but also just asking Google for questions is a viable option. In one of the interviews that we held, somebody actually asked a question about something that was in the company's financials. And I myself had not even gone through the financials, but it was something that actually made him stand out. When in doubt, you can also ask the common questions that people ask, like, what does success look like in the first 6 months of this role? Or can I clarify anything for you that might make you hesitate to consider me for this role? So my advice is just don't ask anything about benefits or salaries, but whatever you do, this is not the time to say nothing from my side.
This is the time to have something from your side.